Let's call it a good news, bad news week for Bayern Munich. And with Bayern, there normally is no bad news. These guys are normally full of lots of good news, as I'm joined by Dan Riccio and Alex Seixeiro. And Dan, when it comes to Bayern, what has kind of caught you with their play the last little while, and maybe a player that also has caught your attention?
Well, we know the sale of Thiago Alcantara to Liverpool was one of the big storylines for Bayern over the last couple of weeks. But look who has stepped up, Joshua Kimmich, who has played right back normally for them and is now firmly planted into that number 6 role in defensive midfield. But he's also got a little bit of offense in his game. Already 2 goals, 2 assists. He scores the winner in the Super Cup, and he has been very dynamic as an offensive addition for Bayern and the way that they've looked so far. He's had 3.5 key passes per game already this season. That's a huge number and a big difference from Thiago, who, despite having some big numbers earlier in his career at Bayern, became more of a distributor the last couple of years. We're seeing Kimmich be more of a finished product for Bayern, and that adds a little bit of another element to what Hansi Flick can do this year to evolve this side after a perfect year last year.
Well, and beating Dortmund in the Cup final is a good bounce back after losing 4-1 to Hoffenheim last week, a week where both Dortmund and Bayern lose. And I think, the talk about the squad depth continues with the deadline hitting October 5th. And we've heard Hansi Flick and Thomas Muller and a couple of the players mention that they need to add some players. And it seems like they're going to do that. We thought Serginho Dest was going to join them from Ajax. It looks like he's going to Barcelona. So now Bayern are looking at Tariq Lamptey, who's a really young up-and-coming player at Brighton Hove Albion. They're looking at Kramaric, who, of course, is the striker for Hoffenheim, who scored against Bayern last week. So I think still it's the same positions we've talked about. Right back, a winger. They could probably use another striker. Looks like Mikel Cuisance, one of their midfielders, is going to lead, so they'll get a little bit of money there. So there's still a few days left before the window closes. It looks like they're going to bring a couple of players in. And frankly, if they're going to win the treble like they did last year, I think, we have seen with all these fixtures and they just looked gassed last week against Hoffenheim. They looked extremely tired. They need some players to come in, and it looks like that's going to happen.
It is one thing to lose in the German Super Cup to Bayern, but Alex, a different thing for Dortmund to lose to Augsburg so early in the season.
How about Augsburg and Hoffenheim, top of the league for 2 weeks?
We called it.
I wish I would have called it. Yeah, it's. I want to say it's very strange for Dortmund going to Augsburg and losing, but it's been a bit of a theme under Julien Favre. They just have lacked consistency, and sometimes when they're playing a lower level team, they don't really show up the way they should. And if you look at their attacking front four in Reina and Bellingham and Sancho and Haaland, you have in those four 2 20-year-olds and 2 17-year-old players playing in the Bundesliga. All 4 of them extremely talented, a lot of skill, but they're pretty inexperienced. And I think when you have that young an attacking side out there on a week-to-week basis, there's going to be games where, frankly, you can have 75, 80% possession, and a team like Augsburg, who have a little more physicality to them, they're just going to find a way to beat you. So this is the reason why Dortmund fans don't truly believe in Favre, because games like last week against Augsburg just happen too often. And of all weeks, they go and lose to them when Bayern loses. So a huge opportunity missed. And we've already seen 2 managers fired through 2 weeks. I'm not saying Favre is close, but I think his seat is a little bit hotter after that result.
Yeah, it's just one you can't afford to lose. And Bayern have that championship pedigree. No matter what, good days, bad days, they normally find a way to win. And that's what they did in the return to play last year and why they cruised to the title in the back half of the season. But for Dortmund, the big story going forward is, will they or not keep Jadon Sancho? Because he's been the big story from a transfer perspective all summer long. It's been the biggest transfer saga. It has always been that they are going to keep him, but do Manchester United really up their bid here in the final few days of the window to maybe change their minds?
Alex, you mentioned managers fired. One of them, David Wagner of Schalke, who looked at the schedule and went, "Oh, great, we get Bayern to start," and then had Werder Bremen, which was certainly a softer landing spot. That still resulted in a defeat. Sometimes things can become in vogue. Do you think that while it is early, that maybe getting rid of a manager early in a season will push some of these clubs forward?
Well, I think with Schalke, I don't think they had any choice. They've gone 18 straight without a win, and dating back to last year, the results just haven't been there. So some have questioned why this move maybe wasn't made in the offseason. Granted, the offseason wasn't as long as it usually is, but they have a lot of issues at Schalke. Such a big team, but they have a serious debt issue. They're, I think, about 200 million euros in debt. They really didn't bring anyone in with the deadline coming up. They have squad issues everywhere, and they just kind of lost faith in Wagner. So, giving up 11 goals and scoring one is technically the worst start we've seen through 2 weeks in the Bundesliga. And they've replaced Wagner with Manuel Baum, who coached Augsburg years ago. He was coaching the under-18s with Germany, and I just felt that if Schalke was going to stay up, it's going to be a fight to stay up. I am convinced they needed a manager maybe with a little bit more experience to try to settle this group. I'm not sure Baum is going to be that guy. So I think it's going to be tooth and nail for Schalke to stay in the Bundesliga. And I'm just not sure with that roster they're going to be able to do it.
Yeah, it doesn't matter who's coming in after the losses that they've suffered through the summer and through the off season, and not being able to replace them because of their financial situation. It's going to be really tough for Schalke. And we've seen a lot of teams, in the Bundesliga. There's obviously the new boys that are going to be thought of as favorites to go down again. But Schalke, given everything that's happened and the way that this club has turned in the last 12 months, you have to wonder if they'll be able to stay up this year.
Well, the Bundesliga season beginning with a little Schalke and I'm sure you guys could see that coming. Alex, Dan, appreciate it. Talk to you next week.
Thanks, Gene.
Thank you, Gene.